Capital Sports Audio New York edition. I'm Dave Ferry, and with me is esteemed colleague and New York reporter Mike Mancuso. Mike, how are you?
Dave, happy Monday.
Let's see, what do we have going on? We've got the NBA draft tomorrow. Knicks and Nets, obviously. Um, I think it's going to be an interesting situation for the Nets and the Knicks, despite being, well, they picked 24th and 31st, and they also, I believe, have the 55th. But they could get a couple of players out of this thing. How do you forecast the draft from a Knicks perspective?
Well, the Knicks have those, the 24th and the 33rd pick, and I think you're going to see them make a move with them. I would be surprised if they didn't make a trade or try to move up. You got to remember this team obviously are the champions. They have a core in place, and they have a couple of moves that they have to make on the outside. They have to decide about Mitchell Robinson if they're going to bring him back. I don't know that another team's going to blow him away with a huge offer that the Knicks can't match, but the Knicks are very leery of going over that apron where they don't want to go into that second tier. And we can have another conversation about how the aprons work another time. But I do know Landry Shamet will probably get a nice contract offer from somebody else. They have guys like Clarkson who are around. I don't know that a significant impact player is going to be around when they pick, but I do know they're interested in Malik Thomas, a guard from Arkansas. They've worked him out. I don't really know a lot about him, but I think if he was available and they thought they can get him, they might hold off making a trade. But I would suspect that the Knicks make that move, and I think the Nets are looking at this kid Keaton Wagler from Illinois, and I don't know if I'm even pronouncing his name correctly, but he's a skilled scoring guard, and I think that's something that they need. So, the Nets are in play here. I mean, not only do they have six, they have 33 and 43, which I know is second day picks, so to speak. But they've been building with draft picks for years. It's about time that they show some fruits to their labor. But back to the Knicks, I think they're going to tweak at the ends, around the outside, and I don't know necessarily that they're going to look to get an impact player in this draft. They have a lot of work to do, even bringing back Karl Anthony Towns because he's up for an extension too.
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned Malik Thomas because I had him as one of my three possible picks at 24. Really good outside shooter. He shot at 42% from three-pointer last season while averaging 15.6 points. So I could see a lot of interest in Thomas from a Knicks perspective. Two other guys that, if they want to go big, they could go with Chris Senick from Houston, 6'11", 240 pounds. Kind of raw, 9.5 points, 7.9 rebounds as a freshman this past season. But boy, he looks like a beast at times, and he could be a great complement to Cat. Not only if they wind up losing Robinson, but they're going to need somebody after Cat. So this guy potentially, if he lives up to that potential, could wind up being the starter down the line. The other guy that I like is Henri Vassar from North Carolina. 17 points a game, 8.7 rebounds. Here's my problem. He's 7 foot. That's great. He's only 200 pounds. He's a string bean. So he may have virtually no impact for the Knicks uh, this upcoming season.
Well, we mentioned Thomas, and if they lose Shamit, then that could be a replacement because you still have Tyler Kolek, who I'm not saying that he's going to be an impact player, but he's definitely good enough to be an 8, 9, 10th guy on the team and get some playing time. And he can shoot. And he did play 60 something game for them, and he had some significant contributions, especially in the Cup game and on Christmas
Mhm.
Day. And as far as the size, if they lose Mitchell Robinson, then they might have to get the 7 footer and develop him because you can't teach size,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why I kind of like Senek. From a Nets standpoint, who do I think they'll take? Mikael Brown Jr. from Louisville, 18.2 points and 4.7 assists as a guard. Loves to shoot from the outside, has great range, but unfortunately, he hit just 34.4% of his three-point attempts last season for Louisville. Um,
And I
I'm
do
not.
know he was worked out several times by the Nets.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I do
they
not.
are interested.
The guy I'd like to see them get is Darius Acuff from Arkansas. I just fell in love with this kid late in the season. He just seemed to get better and better and better as the season progressed, where he was a beast in the conference tournament and he was a factor in the NCAA's. There's some question about his ability to make an immediate impact, but I just don't see it. And I think long term, it's a better pick. Awesome numbers as a freshman, as I said, 23.5 points, about 6.4 assists per game, and he shot 44% from 3-point range. Actually, it was like 43.6. But like I said, I fell in love with the guy. I think he could really be good right out of the gate.
Well, that's what they need. They need out of the gate this long-term stuff now. Nets fan, listen, the Knicks are the champions. They already have 99% of the fan base. If they want to make an impact, this delaying, winning has to end. You have to start putting out a winning product now. So, let's see what
Yeah.
happens tomorrow night. It'll be interesting. But do we agree? And again, you know better than I, Washington, Utah, Memphis, Chicago. Do you see the first four guys, no matter what order, Wilson, Boozer, Peterson, and Devonsa, as the first four guys taken in the draft? Is that the consensus?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the Wizards, it's funny how it'll skew differently from week to week. Like it seemed to me an automatic that they were going to take the Bonsa, and then and now there are questions raised, but I think in the end they're going to take the Bonsa.
Okay. Now, then, and I know Boozer is supposedly the class of this draft, and he might not go first. So then he's going to fall in someone's lap, and that's good for Utah or Memphis.
Yeah, yeah, he could wind up being a Michael Jordan type, where
Right.
he winds up being the best pick in what is a pretty. It's not a great class; it's a solid class.
Right. I don't think there's any Zion Williamsons that are going to just get picked number one and be a bust. And again, he still
Yeah.
has enough runway left to not be a bust. But at this point, I think these four guys will be better than that. So
Let's go to the NHL draft, which is on Friday, I believe. Let me start off out of the gate. Let's talk Islanders. I'll have you talk Rangers, and then I'll talk Devils a little bit. Islanders desperately need a right defenseman. There right now is just one such prospect in their entire system. And my thought is Chase Reed's going to be gone. Keaton Verhoff will likely be gone as well. And that leaves Dax Rudolph and Ryan Lynn, both of them from University of Denver. Rudolph had 78 points in 68 games last season, Lynn 57 and 53. And of the two, Rudolph is 4 inches taller and about 30 pounds heavier. But there's talk that the Blues are very interested in Rudolph. They picked before the Islanders, so it could be a situation where they take Lynn. Um, if Lynn is taken by the Blues, and I think they'll definitely take Rudolph, or they could possibly get Tommy Blyle from Michigan State. That's provided they take, if they really wanted Rudolph and they don't want to use the 13 on Lynn, I could see them trading down, blowing up the thought and going with Blyle from Michigan State, or even Nikita Klipov, who just joined the Spartans from the OHL. Blyle put up monster numbers on the power play, but like Lynn, he's smallish at 5'11 and 170. Klipov put up insane numbers last season with Saginaw, 37 goals and 97 points. So, but really, the Islanders pick, I think, is anybody's guess, just as it's not a given that they'll keep the 13th pick. Darsh is already known; he's already shown an ability to make noise in the draft. Two of the team's top draft prospects right now, Victor Eklund and Keyshawn Aitchison.
Montreal trade.
That's right. Yeah, for Noah Dobson. That long term is going to be one heck of a trade. And they also got a kid. What was his name? Matthew Schaefer. They got earlier in the draft.
Haven't heard of him. No.
Nah, yeah. Mike, give me your take on the Rangers.
Well, just also to say on the Islanders' point of view, they need a top six scorer, and from what I've heard, listening to NHL radio today, the general consensus is that this is a very strong draft and that
Hmm.
the first four players are probably going to be, in no particular say after McKenna, as you mentioned, Reed, Maholtra, Steinberg. Once it gets to the Rangers at 5, this thing could go completely off the rails. They were saying that some teams will have a player at 6, where some teams will have that same player at 18. There's no rhyme or reason, and there's no order. You ask 10 guys, you're going to
Yeah.
get 10 different numbers. So what the Islanders are able to get at 13, they could be very surprised, depending on their draft board, who to get. Uh, as far as the Rangers go, more aggravation. I don't know what they're going to do at 5. I don't know what Drury's going to do. I'm looking at some notes that I wrote. They have to decide what they want to do with Schneider and Trocheck. But listen, they need a right-handed defenseman. They need scoring depth. I think they realize they're going to have $30 million in cap space. So, what they do with this and who they decide to pick, if Carlson Carroll's the defenseman is around, and I don't know if I'm even saying his name right,
Hmm.
he's the guy that seems to be the one that they would look at. I can't speak too much to him except from what I've read, but they need help on defense. I don't necessarily know that there's going to be somebody at 5 that's going to light the lamp and be an impact player, because Drew's made this clear. This is not a rebuild. This is just a retooling. So they're going to look to get some impact players. I know they're going to try to make some moves. I know they're interested in Neil Pionk. I know they might try to pry Marco Rossi away from Minnesota in a Trocheck trade. So I think when we speak next week, there's going to be a lot of changes, but I don't know that I necessarily trust what the Rangers are doing and who's doing it for them. So,
Well, if
we'll see.
if they're going to take advantage of that 30 million cap space, they better do it in trades because they're not going to get much on the free agent market. This is a pretty poor free agent market.
Yes,
And getting
exactly
back
right.
to what you said with the Islanders, yeah, if you look at the NHL roster for the Islanders, they do need a top 6. They may already have one. Heineman could be the guy. Uh, Eklund could be the guy. I mean, they have some talent. They have,
Eisenman could be ready.
yeah, yeah. I think he could be. And we saw the productivity of Cal Ritchie. I would say the last 2/3 of his season, and he looks good. I think he just scratched the surface last season. So
I agree. I
I
agree.
I'm not as worried about their scoring as much as their god awful lack of depth on right defense.
And then I think you're going to see Tony Angelo come back. I think they want to try to buy out, uh, a couple of guys like Palat on the, in the forward line. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they're going to be very aggressive. Don't have a lot of cap space, and they need Vermalov to come back to be the backup goaltender. Simeon is recovering from having both knees done. He played in the minor leagues at the end of the year last year. I think they fully expect him to be the backup goaltender. We'll see. But back to the Rangers, I think that, they are going to be looking defense in the draft. Uh, uh, and also, I think the Islanders back to them as we flip flop, and why not? Pierre Engvall's another guy they might buy out.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I mean
yeah,
the guys on the up the turnpike podcast, uh, they're basically saying they'll pay to erect a statue to Matthew Jarsh if they could get rid of Palat or
yeah.
Paul.
Well, you know what? Palat was brought in with good intentions. Darsh had a history with him.
Yeah,
There was a need. When Palmieri went down, that had a domino effect on that team. And, he'll be back, but he's also going to be a year older. So let's see how that plays out. But, you want to jump to the Devils for a second. I only heard this earlier today. It looks like Nico Hischier is going to be re-signed.
yeah, that I
That's,
expected, particularly with
yeah,
the cap room that they have right now.
right.
Draft wise, I think what they need is scoring up front and grit on the blue line, and they have a couple of choices they could take. Ethan Belchach, I think fits the bill among the forwards. Good numbers at Michigan State last season, 59 points in 57 games. Also, there's Klipov that I just talked about from an Islander standpoint, and Alexander Command. If the Devils keep their pick, and they could always move it, Belchess, I think, is their expected selection. But for defense, they have several options in Europe because they need size on the blue line. They could always trade down and get them, which means they could possibly uh, deal their current pick and find scoring depth that way. So
I think they will. They need a big winger. They need a center. They need size, but they have a good core. I mean,
yeah,
Brad, Nemec, and of course the two Hughes brothers. So I think that you know they took a step back last year, but I don't necessarily think that they're in deep trouble. And it'll be listen, Meta's a first time GM, so
mhm.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think in their case it was just that the quality of goaltending they got 2 years ago wasn't there this past season.
No,
And I know it's not fair to say because defensively they weren't very good either. But when they needed the big saves, they weren't getting them as often as they did 2 years ago.
no, Markstrom was a disappointment. He was supposed to be, the number one goaltender, and he hasn't lived up to that. I know he's a competitor, and I think he's going to come back and have a good year this year for them. But we're going to flip back to the Islanders again. We didn't mention Anders Lee. They have to make a decision on that. And I know the prevailing thought is you waving goodbye to him, but I think he can be replaced. You always harp on the leadership issue, but you know what? Bo Horvat and others will pick that, slack up, and I think that'll clear some cap space too for them.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say bye bye, but if the length of contract is anything longer than 2 years and it's more than $6 million total, no, not worth it.
And he's going to get that from someplace else because these teams have silly money now.
And well,
I mean, think,
and that's going to be his decision. Does he want to remain an Islander? I mean,
right,
the Islanders don't have to keep him, or
right,
does he want to go somewhere else?
right, right.
And there's a possibility he could go to Minnesota.
But it's interesting with all these free agents, the good free agents, not to minimize, the free agents that are out there now, but everybody signed their own players, all the
Yep.
big stars, right? And so that makes trading that much more imperative that you can make good trades. And that's why I'm concerned about what Drury's going to do with the Rangers. And I do think that Darsh now has to show that he can make a trade or two if needed, because they definitely need to do something about the power play on both sides,
Oh
which means keeping Tony DeAngelo. Say what you want about him. He
no,
was
I
their
like
third best defenseman. He's got to stay.
he.
He
Yeah,
earned his spot.
yeah. He fills a role. It's just like he's the opposite of what Gordy Lane used to do during the Cup years. I mean, he wasn't a puck rusher and he wasn't a scorer, but he could clear the net and he could
Right.
hit and he could fight.
Right.
And those were the
Right.
the types of intangibles that a team needs to win a Stanley Cup.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes too here, and there's just a couple of guys that I find very interesting on defense that the Rangers might be interested to. As I mentioned, Pionk might come back. God knows what Winnipeg is going to do. You hear talk about Hellebuck now, and it just makes for an interesting NHL season. Shea Theodore might be a guy that could be available, but again, he's up in age
Yeah,
and he's a left-handed shot, but
yeah.
he is an offensive defenseman, and the Rangers are terrible at getting puck out of their own end. I
Hmm.
mean, it's and it's funny. Jacob Trouba is good. Not that he would ever come back to the Rangers, but
Yeah, like that one.
Jacob Trouba, you know what? The Islanders could use him.
Yeah,
Think about that. Playing on the back end, because he is you know
I'm
Mayfield with talent, with more talent and skill.
I'm forgetting. Is he right side or left side?
He's right side.
Yeah, yeah. That would not be a bad move, and we know he likes New York, so yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
that's an option. Hey,
Right.
let's breeze through the
Yeah,
Yankees and the Mets really quick because I mean, really,
they're going to kick me out of here. Yes.
Oh, they okay.
No,
Really,
no, they're fine. We could stay here.
no, really quick. I mean, Yankees. Any fans worried about the sky falling? Possibly,
No,
forget it.
no,
Okay,
no,
they
it's not
are
happening.
they are plus 112 in run differential this year. That's tops in the AL. You know who's the next best? The Mariners at plus 17, and the Rays are at plus 8. They're the only other AL team that has a positive run differential. So the Yankees also have the fewest runs allowed and the most runs scored. And they're one of just three teams with a winning road record so far among the AL clubs. I wouldn't worry about them too much. And as they play without Judge and they play without Stanton, things are only and Wells. Things are only going to get better.
And listen, Rice is an MVP candidate after the first half of the season. He's got 53 RBIs.
Yeah.
It's. I think the Yankees are going to be. We talked about this last week. I don't care that they lost 2 games to the Reds. Cashman's still going to go out and get pitching. And God knows what he pulls out. He's going to do something because he always does,
Yep.
right? And it's just a matter if they're ready to play in October. And whether Judge comes back or not. I think Stanton took a little regression this week. I think his timetable got pushed back a little bit, but it really doesn't matter because they're going to blow away the American League, and then it's all about playoff time. They'll probably play an American League Central team in the first round, which means they'll sweep that series. All right, and then they'll have to play somebody, and we'll see what happens. But I don't anticipate any problems.
No, I don't either. I mean, it's yeah, even the cream of the crop in the AL Central and AL West. They'd have trouble winning a series against the third place Blue Jays.
Right now, if they happen to play Seattle, I'm looking on my show because there are cleaning people walking around. If they happen to play Seattle, now Seattle then is capable of throwing some pitching at them that might, put a little road bump in their way, but I still don't see them getting stopped, and I think they'll make the World Series. See what happens. I wouldn't mind them losing in the World Series. It is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to get there is one thing. As far as the Mets go, I mean, I know I've been harsh about them the first couple of podcasts, but my goodness, as crappy as they are right now, they're 6 games out of a wild card, and if things finally break their way, I think they can contend. They played what 8 total games so far this season with Lindor and Soto in the lineup, and
I think you need a drug test as soon as this is over. You can go get a drug test
I'm
someplace
I'm I'm
because
I'm just saying I like what they're doing in the minors. I love what the kids have been doing. I love what the kid pitchers have been doing. The bullpen's been solid. Semion's starting to hit. I mean, it's like baby steps. Bichette has been, up until this past series, he was blazing. So
Simeon is hitting 219. Okay. Simeon's hitting 219.
yeah,
Okay. I'm looking at their batting averages right now. Now, Carson Benj and AJ Ewing, besides Soto, who's off on his own, he's hitting 300. He's hitting actually 301. Okay. Then there's Ewing at 266 and Benj at 257. And I still put a lot of power into batting averages. Okay.
I used to on base. On base is
All right. And all right. Well, the on base is even worse. And I don't have those numbers directly in front of me. Bichette's got 42 RBIs. He's picked it back up. Vientos, 223.
yeah.
Alvarez, 250. Ewing, as I mentioned, 266. They're getting nothing on a shortstop, so Lindor will definitely help. And even though Simeon is hitting well with runners in scoring position, of late he hasn't been, but they got nobody else to run out there.
I mean, they do, but I don't think they're going to use them.
Right. And how many teams do they have to climb over to get the wild card? And for them to get to a wild card spot, they were talking about this on the radio last night and the post-game show. And don't ask me why I was listening after another loss. But, back in 24, after this point in the season, they were 8 or 9 games better already. And for the Mets to get back to 500, they're 9 under. They haven't shown any desire or willingness to win 8 or 9 games in a row or 9 out of 11. Could it happen? Maybe.
That's what I'm
But
thinking.
who
Not
you,
only that, in 24, uh, there were teams above them, wild card teams above them that had much better records than the wild card teams now. And all right, you remember 73, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Last in the National League East at 54 and 66 on August 18th. That's horrible, right?
Yep.
Well, they were only 6.5 games out of first as the injured players began to return. And then from there on, they went 28 and 13 the rest of the way. And it seemed like every week it was like they went from last to fifth. And then the next week, fifth to fourth. And then in the span of 8 days, they went from fourth to first. Still not a winning record, but they were in first place at I think
Right.
77 and 77.
But here's the issue. They had Seaver, Kuzman, and Matlack pitching. Take a look at this number that I got from Steve Gelbs earlier. In the first 3 innings of games this season, the Mets have an ERA of 5.45 in the first 3 innings. From the 4th inning on, the ERA is 3.4.
Yeah.
So what starting pitching is coming back that's going to change that? I don't see it. Christian Scott, I mean, he's going to come back, but he's got no track record.
I like Scott.
I like him.
Mean,
Tong is getting lit up like a Christmas tree in the minor leagues.
Patterson's been brutal.
He's been
Peterson,
terrible.
excuse me, Peterson's been,
he doesn't deserve to have his name spelled.
But the thing is, the 73 team had Seaver, Matlack, and Kuzman, and they had McGraw, who was like blazing fire.
The Met bullpen is good.
Their bullpen right now is good. But the thing is, this offense, I don't even want to say potentially. Right now, this offense, with all its blemishes, is better than the 73 offense. And it's only going to get a lot better when Lindor returns.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, let's see what happens. I don't see it, but it's more fun when they're winning. And but I just don't see it. But you know what? The mojo's out of this building. Now it might come back. There's no mojo.
Yeah. Well, they brought one player in of note in 24, and the place caught fire. So maybe it can happen again. I don't know.
They have to decide if they're buyers or sellers too, because Freddie Peralta's been miserable. Right?
That was and again, I can't blame Stearns for that.
I think there was a good trade.
The only thing I can blame about Stearns is that historically Peralta has never gone deep in games. He's at best a 6-inning guy.
And you would sign up for that. He can't get out of the 4th inning now.
No, at least not cleanly. Listen, one other subject I wanted to talk to, but let's talk about. Let's table it until the next one. And that was the just played U.S. Open and how
awful.
The fan conduct was just terrible. But let's table that because I'd like to go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I was reading up more on that today. That was awful what they did, and the fans don't deserve it. I mean, that's
and
boo if you want, but if it goes over a line, you can't. Yeah. That's just awful.
And this is now twice in less than a year that Long Island has held a major tournament, and the fans have really embarrassed themselves and the sport. But let's talk about that next week.
All right, Dave.
All right, for Mike Mancuso, live from Citi Field, I'm Dave Ferry, home in Fairfax, Virginia, for Capital Sports Audio.